introductions so we know the who's who. I know you can all read the names, but I'll ask each of the panelists if you can introduce yourself the way you prefer, and then tell the audience one thing. Like often everyone will say, this is really normal on projects. This is one thing you can all steal and take back to your jobs now, this little icebreaker we're doing. So you'll say who you are, what your role is on the job, and tie in to your introduction how you're playing with Last Planner. That's all you have to say. Expectation is 30 seconds or less. I will judge you. Respectfully. We'll start with Mary. We'll work our way this way.
All right. Hello, everybody. My name is Mary Celestin. I'm a project engineer on this project supporting the superstructure scope. I also help Ariana with production and process work. The Last Planner for me is really on the mindset and how I view my work. I want to make sure I get everything that the field needs and I get it in a way that best communicates to them, not necessarily the way that works best for me. And if I'm the Last Planner and I need information, I need to communicate how I need that information. So it's a framework of mind that I use every day.
That was perfect. Austin, you're going to
Yeah. My name is Austin Nelson. I'm the project manager for Southland, do the HVAC and plumbing out here. How vPlanner has affected my approach. This is my first project using it. Kind of like Mary mentioned, it does make me communicate a lot better. I come from projects where you rely on the GC, just send information to the GC and rely on them to transfer your information and talk to other trade partners, whereas with vPlanner and Last Planner, you have to communicate with others on the team, whether it be other trade partners, design teams. So yes, overall increases communication and the requirement to communicate.
I am Nick Norgard with Del Monte Electric, project executive. vPlanner has evolved for me over the years. It started out, put it bluntly, as a form of peer pressure, it felt like, inside of a room. Some of you may have felt that before early on. It evolved into a sophisticated form of peer pressure for me. And now it is a great way for me, especially when you're coming midstream onto a job, to communicate to your trade partners, to break the ice, and to really build trust. An example, sorry, this may be a little bit more than 30 seconds, is came in late in the design phase and I started creating requests for people, right? And they're like, who is this guy creating vPlanner requests for me? So talk about breaking the ice, right? Go talk to somebody about work you just asked them to complete the next week and then talk about their kids, right? So trust is born.
Nice.
My name is John Davis. I'm superintendent for California Drywall. This is my second project with Last Planner. First project, I was just an observer. This one got thrown in there, the deep end. So as Ariana said, there's young people in the crowd. Well, I'm young to the plant, right? Not my age. So Last Planner to me is the increased collaboration where I can go by trade partners, walk over there, ask a question, get it resolved right now, and keep moving forward.
Thank you, John.
Hi, I'm Pallavi Gandhi. Panos, can you hear me? I'm from Smith Group, project manager and architect on this project. I'm with the healthcare industry for the last 12 years, but this is my first lean product delivery project. And compared to the other project delivery, this is the other project deliveries. The designers, after construction document phase, it feels like honeymoon is over. We are pointing fingers at each other, and instead of doing that, this is more collaborative process, and team is more transparent and building trust. So I like it. I love to work on the other last one assisted project.
Thank you.
My name's Sean Franklin. I work for Sutter Health. I've worked for Sutter for 20 years, but only the last 10 have been with the facilities department. And so I was fortunate that I went over to Van Ness to start, so all I know is Last Planner. So like John, I don't have any history of anything else in the past, so it makes things nice.
Okay.
And Ariana, you know you.
Yeah, you know me already.
I think you know her.
But I think a key in how the last planner has influenced my approach is I'm usually seen as the bad cop here. And so it's a challenge. So I think the importance of building a relationship with the team before you start, making that peer pressure that Nick is talking about is important.
That's great. Well, we're gonna deal with Nick's commitment issues later.
I'm working on them.
He's working on it. That's a good approach. I like the honesty. You can already hear, at least you're thinking about the projects you're on, like, how often do you hear a team talk like this? I've got a script of questions that I might ask, and they know that, but they're being really honest and genuine with you. This is the culture that I see on this team every time I come here, every single time. So I'm really appreciative of this type of culture. This is a fill my cup up type of project. One of the things we want to focus on is last planner system. We saw what Ariana showed, some of the basic component parts. We talked a lot about reliability and waste. I want to hear from Sean about what does that mean to him? What's his been experience with that?
On reliability and waste. So Sutter has strong beliefs on the way on large projects should be ranked, and even small ones, but it's especially true on the large projects. And so they have this belief is that by having strong commitments between the various people to hand the work over, reliable in those commitments, which feeds to the PRCO, that it's more likely to have a successful project with them being on budget, delivering on time for first patient day. So the big values for them is that it's shown to prove that it works, to deliver those three things, which they want to be on budget or under budget, on time, and meet first patient day.
Yeah, can't add anything to that. I want to go to Austin now, and from your perspective, what do you think reliability and waste has been for you on this project?
Yeah, to me it establishes the ball in court, like who's currently responsible for something. One example is, I've only been using vPlanner and last planner in the pre-con phase, so a lot of my examples are going to be kind of submittal related, but one of them being is the structural engineers are currently reviewing our seismic package, and it's a part of a very long stream of the project that goes all the way down to inserting the decks, right, when it comes to in about 6 months. So instead of waiting around and trying to micromanage and constantly follow up whether the engineer is actually reviewing our submittal, right? Through last planner, I've established trust in them that they're going to get it done by the day they committed it, and I can go focus on other tasks rather than constantly worrying if that's going to get done, and I can plan other work. Hey, I don't have to worry about that. They're doing this, and I can go focus on other tasks.
So, yeah, that is big. Thank you, John, for chiming in. Yeah, we got John chiming in. He said, that's huge.
John
normally,
John normally chimes in.
We appreciate it, John. Keep chiming. So I want to throw it down. We'll go over to Nick. Let's hear from your perspective, Nick. The same thing.
Yeah, unfortunately, not every part of the team or extended team gives reliable commitments or can be part of the team that's giving commitments. So what keeps me up at night, right, are external parties that we don't have a lot of control over, right? So that naturally creates waste, right? So I'll give you a good example. PG&E is a great example of somebody you do not have any control over, whether you like to admit it or not.
It's new.
Neither does anyone else.
Authorities having jurisdiction, right? Cities. It depends, right? So what we have to do, right, is adjust, and vPlanner allows us to do that through replanning, right? I'll keep going on this PG&E example. If you look across the street on Summit, we have PG&E overhead lines that are impeding access to our site from Summit Street. So we've been battling for years now, trying to get those overhead lines down, and we're really close. But we initially started the milestone saying that the constraint and handoff was demo, right? A bit of a pipe dream, but at that time it was a good goal to have. As our relationship with PG&E has evolved, we've had to adjust and replan, and each milestone that we're replanning to creates waste or could create waste. So we talk about that waste on the R&O log, right? And how that could affect our project. We're now to a more realistic date and our last responsible moment really for handoff, which is steel. We cannot start flying steel over overhead lines because OSHA won't allow it, right? So that's our have to have it done date. But we have had intermediates in between where it's like, okay, we're trying to pour the lower level walls on June 1st. That makes it harder to do if you have overhead lines, but not impossible. What does that mean to the group and the RO log? So that's how we manage the waste and the risk.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, question?
Just to keep it on acronyms, can you explain what RNL means?
Risk and opportunity. Great question.
Yeah, that was awesome. And I like that little short question is a great example how to interrupt the panel. So good job, Tom.
I went there and gave him the hand up and everything.
Yeah, that was great.
I want to keep the variability train going and jump back over to Mary with the same. How have you experienced waste and reliability with Last Planner system?
Yeah, so I want to talk a little bit about how prioritizing the needs of the last planner can help you identify waste and then work to eliminate it. So one area, similar to what Austin mentioned, we've been in pre-con for a lot of this long time. And so my example is also pre-construction related. And so since we're an IPD environment, we've been doing a lot of collaborative design work before we had our permitted set drawings, meaning that any changes that we were coordinating between weren't RFIs. But there's still changes and there's still brainstorming and coordination items that should be tracked. So how do we want to track them? And so one of the things, how things were originally going was, oh, you send an email over there, we send an email, we make a cloud, looks good. But what ends up happening for the architects and for the designers and engineers is now all of a sudden they've got dozens of emails with weird subject lines that they have to keep track of instead of having a process similar to what you would normally have for an RFI. So we took that standard RFI process, cleaned it up a little bit, made it a little bit more collaborative, and set up a log, just a simple system, so we could track any of those inquiries so that it would be easy to reference for the architect. And then for the architect who I work with for the superstructure scope, he really prefers hard copy, and if a 30-second activity for me to print just these are the inquiries in your court that we'd like to have back next week that we've been coordinating with, that saved him, 30 minutes in his week, 30 minutes in a day trying to navigate those emails, find where everything was. So having that conversation, hey, what's working for you? What would you need? How can we make that easier? And now it's streamlined a lot of our process now that we do have a permitted set, now that we are working with RFIs, and we can backtrack and actually look at, hey, why did we make that decision? Okay, yeah, we have a documented paper trail, even though we didn't need it at the time.
You call them inquiries?
We do.
There we go.
First inquiry and then RFI. First inquiry and then RFI.
Perfect transition. So stepping 1 foot closer into design. Malavi, has there been any dramatic improvements that you've seen as a result of using the Last Planner system?
Yes, I want to give an example. During the permit process, we had the City of Oakland required demolition permit and the superstructure building permit to be issued at the same time. And with the V-Planner, help of V-Planner, we were able to look at the major delays if they were holding up the demolition permit. So the team worked out the solution, came up, went back to the City of Oakland and made sure the demolition permit and the superstructure permit are decoupled, and the construction team was able to start the demolition earlier, and which saved the make-ready work schedule significantly.
That's great. I want to transition to Ariana. On this dramatic improvements that you've seen, what can you share with the audience on that same vein as a result of using Last Planner system on this job?
Our biggest late path that we see every time. I talked about the excavation and shoring. We had an unforeseen condition with the existing building next door, and so We had to redesign one corner of the building for the excavation and shoring, where we realized and accepted, okay, we're gonna miss this milestone. Excavation and shoring is gonna be delayed. What can we do to fix the path, to bring us back to that end date, right? So what we split the site kind of in two to be able to allow the next phase, which is foundation on one half of the building, sooner than what we had originally planned, and making sure that we're releasing more work for the next phase. So being able to see the impacts throughout the phase of the project with V Planner and the constant communication has significantly helped us in, I guess, making the plan visible, right?
Right. I want to jump all the way back over to Mary. Mary, have you seen any significant improvements
Yes.
or dramatic improvements?
Dramatic improvements. I would say one example of how we've taken this system and then applied it to our make work ready and enabled us having really good improvements, dramatic improvements, if you will.
You can throw some dates out. No one's going to get. I mean, Ariana will check you if your dates are wrong.
Yeah, my dates are wrong.
Here it comes again.
So the example that I have in mind is our built-in quality pre-construction meeting that we hosted 2 months before we started foundation for our scope. And so as Ariana mentioned, we have our whole plan meeting sessions where we go out, we put up all of our stickies, decide what the scope is, and then we turn it into our TAC plan, make sure it's moving at a continuous flow and get all the buy-in from the trades. But then from there, what we did is we took a simple sequence saying, okay, this is the process to do the concrete pour for the foundation. This is an example sequence for doing our concrete pour for the walls. And then for each one, we mapped it to the inspections that we would have for that scope. And then we mapped it with any additional built-in quality considerations with the help of Leonard that aren't necessarily inspections, but are things that we would want to look for and what we want to be careful of. So, okay, how are we protecting our waterproofing while the concrete is being poured? Who's going to be doing that? And so we had this big meeting with the inspectors, all of our trades, all of our key partners in the room, and we went by saying, okay, let's go through each one. And then now in the actual field, that work, those hours spinning around, spinning your wheels, those are gone. We get to focus on actually solving real work problems. And so Ariane is going to be touching later on about how we had an unforeseen weather condition for our foundation pour. And I think the fact that we didn't have to worry about what inspections we have coming, how we're going to manage some of that built-in quality, enabled us to focus on that and get that done in the day it needed to.
Teamwork makes the dream work. I love that. So you hear a lot about how they're dealing with variation. You know, one of the things that this, even using a system as eloquent and as elegant as Last Planner system to plan, schedule, and execute work, you're still going to have challenges. You're still going to have to adapt. So I want to shift back to Pallavi and Sean. If you could share a time when we heard in the beginning that reliable promising can sometimes mean no. It's okay to say no. Can you share a story about that?
Yes.
Go ahead and start.
Yeah. So during design development phase, we were going through user group meetings with
Louder. Must be loud.
You can't hear me? Sorry. So during design development phase, we were going through the user group meetings. We had several rounds of meetings, but there was a request to add more meetings to finalize the design. And we looked at the V-Planner. V-Planner gave us the visuals of we are making a delay in sending the drawings to the permit. So the V-Planner showed us the milestone of the permit document date, and we have to escalate to get the design finalized. So user group meetings and if you want to speak about the.
I think that we accommodated some additional meetings, but then at some point they said, oh, we need more. And we finally, but we had to say no, and we escalated SUT, and they said, well, how prove it? And so by proving, the V planner gives us some proof in a way to say, look, if I add this other median here, I'm gonna push this permit out. So it was very transparent, and so we're able to give the information, because we don't want to just say like, oh, you're gonna push the permit out. They're gonna say, oh, well, prove it. Well, I had the proof, is that I now permits were gonna be another, 2 weeks late if I add another thing. And SUT then stepped in, and they made an agreement, and they pushed the users and says, no, you got until this date for all your user meetings, and they were able to put that pressure on as a thing. But the V planner gave me the backup I needed to say, it wasn't just crying wolf.
And then for Tom's already gonna ask.
Yes, Tom,
What's SAT stand for?
Well, I think he knows, but he's being helpful for the team. It's a senior executive team, and we at Sutter use that as on all our projects. It's a mix of people within LPS. Digby and Panos are on many of the SUTs, as well as architects, the people, her supervisor, people above Southland and things, as well as some clinical users who are the champions of the project.
Right. Vic?
Yes.
Just for the comment about which software to use, I think I'd say for any software you're choosing, if your software doesn't require that you have the sequence of events that you're just talking about and the dependencies and have that linked to the milestone, so that as soon as you lose a date or somebody doesn't meet a commitment, there is immediately flagged a stream of work that's going to push out the milestone. If it can't show you that, you're probably not doing real last planning, because that is what we're trying to do. We're not just being reliable in our promises and to hell with the milestone. We're trying to meet or beat the milestone in the most efficient, smooth, happy way we can all do that, work together and make it work. So this is, I don't know of other software other than SPS where you have that kind of dependency layout. Other people may know, so that's fine. but that's, you want to be able to show that this is our best estimate.
It is a very good visual. It's very obvious that it turns negative.
Yeah, right.
That's positive. I want to jump over to Austin to hear about
Yeah.
a time that you had to say no, Austin.
Yeah, so I won't get into too much detail, but we had some HVAC equipment on site, some heat pumps where new code cycles came out and you had to use a new type of refrigerant. And so we were kind of at a make or break period of whether to try to release units early or go with the new refrigerant. The building's not going to be done for a few years, probably the best path to use. More upgraded system, more the code compliance system of the future. And with that, when we got early design data, it had higher electrical requirements, therefore affecting Del Monte. So initially we let them know, hey, this is what we're seeing with this new equipment. What's the impact look like? What are the consequences here? And for them, and they chime in if I'm missing any details here, but they had already released a lot of their panels and their boards to the factory. So they tell us, hey, we need to know by X date to whether or not you guys are making this decision, what the actual data is, because we were only working on preliminary data. The factory was basically creating these new machines. So they said we need certain information by X date, and I had to tell them, no, I can't get that to you. The factory's not going to get that to me. I'm not going to make a false promise. And so then I believe Del Monte used that, go into vPlanner, understand what are the different impacts if we make the decision now or 2 months from now, how's that going to affect the schedule. It also affected the feeder conduits and wire, which ties into the BIM schedule, which ties into the seismic package that I talked about earlier, right? So it's this whole giant downstream effect. And they were able to use vPlanner, last planner, vPlanner, to go in and say, okay, Salvin, like the absolute drop dead date without costing this project hundreds of thousands of dollars is this, you need to know by then. And so add stuff if you need to. But
Oh, what a great segue into a time the MEP probably should have said no. We wanted to be 100% BIM coordinated by 100% CD, right? Which is a great goal, But what a perfect example of why that doesn't always work, right? We aren't working off of approved submittals or finalized equipment, and selfishly, we're one of the last customers that have to adjust our design to accommodate designs that are being finalized, right? So if we were a little bit more honest with ourselves and didn't feel the pressure, right, we wouldn't have said, yeah, let's do it. Be 100% coordinated by 100% CD. We're still working, well, not working, we've replanned BIM accordingly, right? And we're being honest with ourselves, and we have a great date that works with our plan, but that was a lofty goal, I'll call it. That may not be, a popular opinion, but we needed to be real with ourselves that there are things that are going to change, right? So let's plan accordingly.
Yeah, I love that. It's just as he was talking, like this red diamond caught my eye, an August 21st date. Can we commit to that, Nick?
That is the date, and we can commit to it.
I love that. You can hear it in his voice, he's committed. He feels committed, I feel a commitment, it's real.
Yeah, I feel it.
You feel it too, right? Sean feels it.
Tom, you feel it?
The bass got me. Shook my bones.
We can commit if there are no more changes.
That's highly likely.
That is so good. So, I want to go to Ariana and Mary. When was the time that the two of you had to deal with the no?
Well, Mary mentioned we replanned the foundation so that to recover from the delay in the excavation and shoring, and we were ready, and then we got a storm, and so the pad could not get certified because it was muddy, as you can imagine, and so we did everything we could, and Geotech came out and only certified partial areas of the pad. But there was this pressure of let's pour, let's do it. And we looked at, okay, what are we gonna gain if we only pour this section of the pad? What does that release? It releases the waterproofing on the walls of the lower level, but literally the part that, it was only a small section of the wall that the mud slab was hitting, so it really doesn't gain us anything. So it just, let's hold on. So we stopped the day before the pour at 4 p.m. We were all down at the Brown House and said, let's call it off. Let's call it off, no pour. Let's come back tomorrow, fresh heads, let's replan it. We had a couple of options, and let's take a look at it again tomorrow. Let's bring the players, make sure that we can replan, and that's what we did. We had the ideal path or sequence was for the mud slab, then waterproof the walls, and then waterproof the slab, and then protection slab, and blah, blah, blah. What we did is we talked to the waterproofer, and they said, yes, we can waterproof the walls before the mud slab. The next available pour was weeks out, and we still needed to certify that area of the pad that wasn't certified, and we need to remediate it somehow. So we knew it was going to take us a few days. The waterproofer came out and started on the walls, and they were done in 5 days. Then we poured a week and a half later. We actually changed the pour, actually 2 weeks later. We poured the mud slab, protected the walls, and then we went on waterproofing the pad. And so we just resequenced. And at the end of the day, we was like, well, it was a good call. Like, we should not have poured, and we made the right call, and we're back on track.
Where were you, Mary, on this, that day that they come back in? There's a big, everyone's coming together. Are you on the team no side, or are you on the team yes, maybe side?
I started yes, maybe, since I was also very interested in having the pour. I was like committed to this plan. This is what we want to do. But then, and Ariana mentioned it was a very small section, but it was like a zigzag, and it would have made it really difficult to come back and pour the rest of the area since it didn't actually hit the walls. There was more danger strategically to do that pour, and it would have pushed out the schedule even further. So having the option for us to say, okay, let's lay out all of our options, and also all be in person in the space together and working with our subs saying, yep, we'll come in first thing in the morning, we'll hash it out in our construction meeting, we'll push that meeting out, all we need to focus on is this, brainstorm the different options. That resequencing really made the most sense and I think enabled us, as Ariana said, to get back on track.
Very cool. Thinking about how that sequence, that means and methods, now we're in the hole. Let's come back out and think about some of the design. Lavi, I think, even with a great client like Sutter, which I love, huge Sutter fan, I'm on Team
It's hard
Sutter.
not to.
It's super hard.
It's hard not to.
How about the client's impact on the look-ahead schedule and your ability to make commitments for your team and your design partners?
So,
Let's hear for this.
Yeah.
This will be good. I want to hear your opinion. Loud, too.
yeah. So I'm going back to the design development phase. So while we were going through the user group meetings, there were changes to the plans, and from this schematic design phase. So we had to have the D7 process, which is a Sutter Health approval process, and I want to.
Yeah, we have a D7 form that we use for getting approval of the significant scope change, somebody wants to add something or remove something, so that it helps keep our projects on track and gets approval. So D7s can get approved. It could be asking for more money or they need to study things, but so we have a process and it gets reviewed, moved through FLT and has to get signatures. So, but during that time, you sometimes have to effort for pricing and getting information. It takes time to great quality D7 to be presented that tells the complete story.
And so with the D7 approvals, we added those tasks to the V planner, and we made sure that owner is responsible on approving these on time based on the milestone that we are looking at. So we made sure owner's team is
Accountable as well.
accountable as well.
Yeah, that's big. And I want to pivot to John. You've got a lot of experience before coming to this type of team where we're seeing that type of engagement and accountability. Can you give us some contrast on negotiation with who's your client in Last Planner, versus on other projects that you've had before?
My client in Last Planner, it's my predecessor or successor. Like the huddle, that's a big tool for me, mechanism to use for Last Planner. Where we go there, you see in our huddle room, we go, and then instead of having a facilitator go up there and read off tasks, and we just sit back and say on track, we have the Last Planner, speak for their task. Mm-hmm. And they're up there, they speak for their task. Am I on track? Am I replanning? If it's a replan, what's the constraint? Why? So that allows me to give my customer, whether it's predecessor or successor, what I need to deliver, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense. So that type of stuff doesn't happen on non-Last Planner projects?
Not to this degree. So non-Last Planner, we've done pool plans. I've been in the trailer, 2 hours in the trailer. We do that pool plan, sticky notes, everybody leaves, that's the last we look at.
Yeah.
There's no accountability. Here, we approach it every day, every week. So there's accountability. You have to speak for your task, you have to tell why you did well or you didn't do.
Awesome, thank you, John. So thinking about that system feedback, putting it all together, that feedback loop in Last Planner, we do that learning as a group, like you just heard John contrasting for us, it's really a magic maker. And I want to think about PPC, a lot of people talk about KPIs all the time. Plan percent complete as a KPI, reverse looking, KPI tells you how you did. Heard Ariana talk about promises. I'm going to go back to Ariana and ask you, what does PPC mean to you on this job?
Trust.
So she's got one word as trust.
Yeah.
You've got time, you can expand on trust.
I just had a whole presentation about it, but yeah, I just knowing that, building that trust that you can say, oh, yes, that person's gonna deliver. you can read the room and you start to learn who the players are. You know who you can trust, and yes, I can count on you, or there's a very high chance that I won't get that done. I need to be on top of people. So it's, the PPC just says, yes, this is a high performing team. They get together, they get along, they can communicate, they're reliable.
Awesome. How about for you, Sean, from your perspective?
Well, Sutter uses it as a metric across all their projects. So it's a really important one because it's, like I said, we report all these large projects, we report it up to people like Digby and Panos, and they want to see the same metrics across all. They don't want to rethink about, well, what's this project using for this metric? What's this project using for metric? So, I think that sometimes there's always an understanding. I went down recently somewhere and they may have, oh, well, we like that, but we want to use this too. It's like, no, you got to use these. And so the metric, I think, helps Sutter know from leadership that it's people are meeting their commitments, it's reliable, and it's more likely to be open on time, on budget, and meeting those first patient days. So it's just a nice, they've set to this standard that that's the important one they use. And so it's really clear that we know that we have to be reliable because they're going to see it if it's not. If it drops down for too long, when we had problems with the city of Oakland delays and we were being constrained by them, they understood it. But then they also would expect that it goes up. And so when we have the moments that Digby made a comment today, I'd like to see it a little higher. And it was, okay. Point taken.
That's good. That's good, positive motivation.
Yeah.
So thinking about these feedback mechanisms, just like Digby using that tone going up with his, I can imagine his voice going higher too.
Yeah.
As you said, go higher. I want to go to Austin. Tell me about what's really effective from your perspective in Last Planner system, and the plan looks like it's failing.
Yeah, so like Ariana mentioned in her presentation, like Nick mentioned in his intro, we do the report out in big room of what did not get completed. And for me, I don't like being on there at all. So I know it's not supposed to be used as a disciplinary tool, or not going to get kicked off the job for being up there one time. But internally, I use that to figure out what did I do wrong? Did I not talk to the right people? Did I not get the right information from the vendors to commit to that? Did I not plan my own week the correct way? So for me, I use that as a tool or a motivation factor, I guess you could say, to really think about what am I committing to? How many days am I putting on the task? And making sure that I'm not affecting anybody below or above stream of me.
That's great. How about Mary?
Yeah, so for me, building off of what Austin said, when you aren't able to meet that commitment and you have to have that conversation of a no somewhere in the stream, it's important to go through that 5 whys. And so for anyone who isn't familiar with the 5 whys, if you can't do something or something goes wrong, you want to ask yourself why 5 times or maybe more to uncover the root cause. And so whenever we mark a task incomplete in vPlanner, we have to mark the reasons of variance, as Ariana mentioned, and then there's also a call out to describe what that root cause is. And so, let's say you ran a red light, and you're like, why did I run the red light? I was speeding, I woke up late, I didn't set off my alarm, I didn't wake up because my alarm, I didn't set the alarm. Okay, if I'm not trying to run red lights, I need to set my alarms the night before, right? And so a recent example, just this past week, was we've been doing coordination on the superstructure side for the lower level perimeter walls with the MEP for the MEP team for the penetrations, and there was miscommunications that made it so that we weren't able to hit the deadline we had for getting the shop drawings back in time. And when having the conversation of, hey, where did the miscommunication come from, we ended up uncovering that there was not a clear understanding of who the last planner was for the 2 deliverables we had. We had a inquiry that was sent out by the concrete sub because they were requested by the BIM team for the BIM team saying, hey, these are our high priority concerns. The BIM team interpreted that as, oh, we'll give all of our information and this is really for the concrete team, when that's not where we were coming from. We ended up submitting those submittals without that information already received, asking for double work from the MEP team saying, we need you to provide all this information here. And they're saying, hey, we've already did it. We already gave it to you in the inquiry. And so understanding that disconnect enabled us to create a new system moving forward. We just have a super plot from the start, and any questions can be provided, updated in that plot, and then sent in before the submittal gets turned in. So we cleaned that up by having that honest conversation when there was a no in the room.
Yeah, thank you, Mary. I want to jump over to John and hear from your perspective, how have the plan fails been effective for the learning?
Say that again?
How the plan fails, like in last planner system, like Mary was sharing, from your perspective, how has it helped in the learning to make changes with the team?
Plan failures?
It's like looking in the mirror, right? I mean,
Well,
for me sometimes, right? PPC, I'm up here thinking of Ariana, like when's the last time I didn't make a commitment to Ariana? I'm like, I want to be better, right? So
correct.
that's what I was thinking about, looking in the mirror and how you can, like you were talking about, whether you feel guilt or not.
Right.
Maybe it's healthy, right? So that you don't do it again. Yeah.
So
It gives-
it comes back, you know, on my scope, the huddle, right? The huddle is very important to me. That's what I go by, big room day, right? Where we're going over PPCs, we're going over commitments. So I'm not sure if I understood the question totally.
Yeah, so if a failure comes up in the plan, typically the general contractor response to would be something like, John, you just gotta add more people, right? I'm sure you've heard that at least one time.
Yes.
Right, but in this project, you said you're utilizing the daily huddles a lot to make changes and adapt. So when you're hearing something not going well, what's something different, versus the just add more people?
Correct. I mean, so that again, that's where I can see the failure ahead of time. I can plan my manpower. I can plan my deliveries or change my deliveries. I mean, so that's where it works for us because I can not see the future, but I can foresee what's coming down the road instead of hitting me in the face and now I'm scrambling or canceling deliveries or I have a truck out there. So I can shift people around or not even bring them on.
Awesome, thank you, John. How about for you, Bilal, with all of your teams? And I'll be looking to see if we get any side comments.
So we do have our internal Smith group meetings and we discuss what are the week planner tasks and that can we commit to it. So if there is, we make sure the task is understood by everybody and we are committed, the team is committed to commit to it, like reliable commitment. So sometimes we are not able to provide the submittal reviews on time, but it is okay. I mean, as long as the sequencing wise, if we are okay with the construction sequence, if we are delaying for 2 days, the team is okay on providing the submittal review. So I don't know if I.
Yeah, you answered it.
It allows us to be more efficient.
There we go.
Efficient.
There we go. You chimed in.
We prioritize, and we're getting hit with a lot of submittals right now, right?
Yeah.
So we asked for a submittal schedule, we got one, so we got all the dates are stacked on the submittals. We're like, okay, we don't have the manpower to do this. So we talk and we approach all the subs that are giving us submittals and we say, look, we can't do this right now. You need this right now. Why are we getting this, right? So it allows us to prioritize what works for the current 3 or 4 weeks ahead, right? So, and it's a visual thing. You see it right there, and it makes it much more good. And it becomes more collaborative, and it's actually a better communication tool for us too.
And if I can add, that usually happens at the end of the big room. We have so many tasks and we're going through them and people say, yes, commit. But you gotta take a look at the end. Okay, let's take a look at all the commitments and oftentimes we just see, say, John or Pallavi has 10 tasks and are you really gonna do the 10? Like, happening at the same time and sometimes they say yes and sometimes they say no, you know what, I can't. Can we, which is the priority? And then we replan, remove commitments. That happens a lot, so that helps too.
It's a very agile system.
No, we're gonna be best friends. I'm a super.
There's a timer at the end of this.
I super love Agile. He's gonna get a prize. He's gonna get a prize. Mary, you have something to add to that?
Yeah, just as you mentioned that vPlanner will flag you when you're behind schedule and you're triggering a late path, it also lets you know how much float you have. So if John's looking at those 10 tasks we have almost committed to open the plan, we can say, okay, well, these 4 submittals have a lot of float in them. These 2 don't have any float in them. Okay, you're going to commit to those, and that's not going to hit us for the PRCO because we don't need to commit to those tasks to stay on track. And vPlanner helps us do that, make that decision.
Oh, that's great. So I want to go back to the panelists. This is the last question before we open it up to audience questions. William's got a question.
No, wait.
You said it's.
It's been building. I've been seeing your face. It's been building.
You can ask it now if you want to. You've already interrupted. So.
Yeah, come on.
You interrupted.
Yeah. I interrupted everybody with William's question.
I guess my question is, with allowing more time for submittals or allowing more time for RFIs, has the team ever experienced a non-IFOA member or someone who's not part of the shared contingency coming back and saying I have a cost because my submittals took longer, the process took longer, even though it didn't affect a critical path?
We need coach. I don't think so.
No.
Not yet.
Not. Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
I don't think so.
I could see it happening if it was like it affected mobilizations, right?
Yeah.
Or something along those lines.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm thinking about our sub-tiers, right?
Right.
The nurse calls, the fire alarms of the world. We're able to build those handoffs in the plan, right? To try to avoid that. But sure, yeah, you have to deal with those who aren't at the table, right? And manage them accordingly, right? Sometimes they're tough conversations about you almost have to act like, the other side, right? And say, no, this is what we agreed to. But you're also able to bring it to the team if it's a real impact to your sub-tier.
Mhm.
And we talk about it in the RO and talk about how it could affect our contingency. And as a team, we decide it's money well spent or it's not, or go push back, right?
Okay.
And I think one of the really important aspects for the project team is having that clear communication. So for us, for Superstructure, our 3 main subs are not part of the IFOA agreement, standard subs, but they aren't participating in the big room unless called upon to join it, but they do participate in our weekly construction meetings, now that we're in the construction phase, and our structural cluster groups where we go through design coordination items, RFIs, etc. And at the beginning of that structural cluster, we do a 3-week look ahead in vPlanner. So we're saying, because you're not going to be in the big room, we're going to commit to you now, and we go through everything together. And so when we're making that decision saying, hey, we're not going to commit to that submittal, or we're giving all of due dates to when we're turning in those RFIs, if we're saying, hey, we're going to give it a week later, we're getting that buy-in. And so it's been really collaborative. So we've had, just earlier this week, one of the pumps broke down, and the sub wanted to see, hey, can we go beyond that 90-minute limit? As long as we're checking the slump and the temperature, we're making sure it's good. I'm calling the structural engineer at 8 a.m. We have that RFI turned around in 20 minutes. We have those, and that trust that enables, okay, you get 2 weeks for this one that's going to be for slab on metal deck way down the line. And it helps the subs say, yeah, we want to be proactive so we don't have to deal with those fires. So yeah, take those 2 weeks and we'll start giving them in earlier and start brainstorming earlier in these groups. So it's worked out, and we've had those conversations before, but showing up when it counts lets that trust for giving you more wiggle room.
That's great. Good interruptions. Questions are welcome, people.
Beautiful.
Questions are welcome. Bring them on. Bring them on. So, final question for the panelists.
Final
And
question.
you can say, as the last planner on the panel, I pass. No. So you can say no to this question. So from your expert opinion, I'm going to just go down the list. We're going to go Mary to Ariana last. Is there a tool or a technique based on your experience that you're just like, I can't live without this now?
Yeah, I'm gonna say visual management. So just the way that our project is set up, you have to choose to opt out of the system. You don't have to say, oh, I'm gonna opt in. It's everywhere. We have our visual views of the production plan, we have our contingency up here at all times, we have the words we should and shouldn't say. When we have these collaborative meetings, we also put up drawings and details so that if we're trying to make sure that we all understand what's going on, let's all just start writing and drawing together. So it makes it so that if you're gonna not participate and not understand, you have to really choose not to do it. So I love the way that we're really visual on this team to make sure that everyone's on the same page.
Awesome. Austin?
Yeah, for me, it'd be V-Planner. I haven't spent my whole career at Southland, so my previous company, all the jobs we were doing were lump sum, plan spec type, and feedback from the GC. Don't mean to offend any here, but was, hey, you bought the schedule, deal with it, right? You hit these dates, it is what it is. Or if we were lucky, we got to do the stickies, right, for waste half of our day, and like John mentioned, it disappeared, right? So that's what I'm used to, and then come here, and you get to see real clarity in the schedule and understand where things live, and the GCs and owners, everybody else respects your input, and they actually take it into account, right? So that's been a huge plus for me coming out of this type of project and using V-Planner and Cost Planner.
Awesome. Yeah, I don't know if it's an expert tip, but it's definitely one of the first things that I show people that I'm working with on our team. It's called show and hide task neighbors. Since our clients and customers are always changing in V-Planner or any last planner system, navigating through planning, weekly planning, 3-week look ahead planning, or any replanning that you're doing, it's always important to know who's handing off to you and who you're handing off to. And then also be able to track back if you're far enough ahead to say, how do I impact this person 3 weeks before me or 3 weeks after me? And having those conversations, opening up that line of communication is so important. So that tool, the hide, show, task neighbors, is a very important tool. And what it does, it just pops up a side panel view when you click on a task when you're navigating. It shows you your successor and predecessor. And then you can track back as far as you need to in that stream or forward, depending on what you're trying to accomplish, right? So that's a quick one. The touchy-feely side for me would be use those opportunities of communication to get to know your team, right? We keep talking about trust and it's real, right? So why not, if you're going to talk to somebody about how you're going to screw them up in 2 weeks because you're not going to complete your task, then take the opportunity, right? Ask them how their day is going. So and there's something to it, or not going. Or did I just ruin your day?
All right, so I'm gonna sound like a broken record because I'm boots on the ground. I'm the superintendent. California Drywall has a lot of pieces of this puzzle. So back to the huddle. That is a very important tool for me to plan, like I said, my deliveries, my truck, my men, where it's framers, hangers, all the way to the painters. So that is a major tool for me to plan my whole schedule.
Thank you, John. Flavia?
So I'm agreeing with John on this daily huddle where entire team is there for 15 minutes. Look at the weekly task, and we're looking at it every day. So people are making sure that the task is completed by the end of the Wednesday, because the Thursday is the big room. And at that time, one day we probably know if there is any constraint of not finishing. So people are looking at reworking, replanning, and so I think that's a great tool to, which works for me.
I just love, we just heard superintendent and the architect
Yeah.
both agree that daily huddle's where it's at. I just love it. Thank you.
Wasn't in plan.
Yeah.
Not even planned. Sean?
Pallavi knows my answers, but I am a stickler for on-site collaboration.
Yes.
Yes, and she's come around.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
If you had asked me last year, I may not have, but now I said on-site collaboration and agreeing to Sean.
Yes. It's like I know when somebody's not here. I know. I can look at where's somewhere else. And so I think on-site collaboration. Think I could be convinced that hybrid would ever be successful on a large, short duration project. But I also think it's important, and she alluded to it, knowing how to read the room. It's, we harp a little bit, but you can't do it constantly. And so there's times where you have to call somebody out, but I'm not gonna say all throughout the day needs to be attached to the UV planner, be attached to the UV planner, because people are gonna just like this blow me off. So you have to know the room, but it's like gentle pokes. Jeannie's good at it. She has this way to kind of say, sounds like that should have been a V planner. And it's like, she's very subtle. She only will say it once, this is good. But I think it's like, but you have to do it in a respectful way. And so I think that goes back to that, I'll say principles of respect and you have to have fun, which is what I like to do.
That's great. Ariana?
I have to say the production strategy wall, that Excel template that we have and we put together. It is a lot of work. It is very hard to maintain, but to me, it's very visual. So it's easy to follow. It's out there for everybody to see, and now that's the way I think. So I would take that with me everywhere.
The wall? The tool. Oh,
That's awesome. So we're gonna open it up to questions from anybody. For anyone on the panel, just say their first name, ask their question, or say anybody wants to answer, ask your question. I'll look past this column, see if there's anyone. If I can't see you, just start speaking. Any questions?
So it sounds like you're still in pre-con,
Yes.
and you just got your hole started to fill up, right? So you're already incurring inspections. How does V-Planner work into the inspection process or your quality control program? Those are two different items to track. So can the panel speak to that, the quality control program? Quality control program?
So the inspections are in the plan.
Okay, they're
So
accounted for.
they're a task. They become a task for each sequence of work. So it's part of the plan. And
And then how about the quality control aspect?
Mary, you want to speak to that?
Yeah, so for verifying that the work is done and done well, so if we're gonna status the inspection task as complete, as a team, we're on the understanding that includes it's passed and the quality is up to snuff. We have additional software for actually tracking all of the inspections themselves. We're using Freight Train because that's where we're processing all of the inspections. And then that's where it goes back to that built-in quality checklist that we do with each phase team. So we're referencing for each of those tasks in vPlanner, we have these are the inspections that are associated with it, and those are in vPlanner that inspection has to happen. But then we also have written down in our master notes schedule that these are also the built-in quality items, who's assigned to it. So we have a way to reference it and check off and make sure that we did a good job.
I see, so you have a system to confirm the quality control was accomplished, and then the inspection to follow, typically with stellar, with no fix.
Yes, and we have Leonard in the back. He's
So I've
our
heard.
so he's
You know him, right?
He's helping
You know
he's
him?
helping us out and
Yeah.
helping us make sure it's all looking good. Checklist.
Thank you.
That's great. Any other questions?
So does the huddle then on a daily basis also contribute to the quality control? I mean, there's this old rule that it's not done until your successor, the person you're handing off to, says, yeah, that gives me what I need, right? Is that a reality in your discussions? Well,
Yeah.
It will definitely become one for us specifically, right? I'll use is framing complete and inspected,
Yes.
or is it the end wall complete and inspected, right? Are you ready to close that wall up, right? So,
Right.
yes.
But if you're doing TAC planning where you got a parade of trades, and each day I come in and I say, yeah, we got studs blah through blah installed, and you're following me doing rough-in, and you say, really?
Yeah.
What about that section down there that's not done?
That's the
that's
perfect place
part of
for
the
that.
quality
Yeah.
control on
That's
a
right, yeah.
daily basis, right?
Absolutely.
And
Sequencing.
and I'd say that Ariana's done a great job of work zoning, so we know exactly in which zone, and we have that zones marked out in vPlanner. So it's not just, we have the entire building that we're doing, fill in the task. It's okay, we're breaking it down to that zone. So you can go and you can look, and that's why we have these really ideal locations where you can see out, or in our brown house, we're right next door, so you can just walk out and check. on that daily basis when we're reviewing in those huddles, and we can really see that it's up to snuff.
Any questions this side? Oh, we got two here. We'll go Tom and then William.
Tom, Sutter. Any acronyms you guys want out there? No, I'm kidding. So, I just heard my friend Sean here say he likes on-site collaboration. Is there any component with, let's say, the last planners where you're hybrid in a way, right? So if we're doing a daily huddle, is that team in person here at the
In
person.
Colo?
In person.
We don't,
Colo
we
every
don't
day?
set up a call for that.
Yeah.
You gotta be here.
Fantastic.
There's no phone over that.
I love it. I was just trying to bait you because I'm creating, I actually have an abstract in right now to do a hybrid big room with so many people on this panel. And another
Not me
project.
though, right?
No comment.
So if there's nothing to talk about here.
Yeah.
Fantastic. I applaud you and I applaud you as well.
Awesome.
The cluster group meetings, yes, it has
This is
some,
remote.
yeah, cause
No,
some
no,
people.
it's here, in this room.
It's here,
Yeah.
but there's some people that do call in.
Yeah, there's a handful of people
Yeah.
calling, but the main people
Okay.
aren't, it's not acceptable for the main critical person to be remote. Like, they may be like, sometimes Spencer's doing some structural
Structural
calculations
engineer.
on small mechanical equipment. He's not coming here for the
Sure,
budget
sure.
thing.
Okay. No, I'd say post 2020, that's not for a project this size, that's
Well, we like to have a lot of fun here, so they wanna come.
There's pop.
Yeah. When you smell the fresh popcorn being
There is
made,
popcorn.
it's hard not to want to be here. William?
Do you break down your PRC by responsible partner so that you're looking at each individual firm to see if
No.
maybe someone needs coaching?
No. You could track it. If you search for it, you will find the history behind it. What we do have, or what vPlanner has, is, well, you're gonna show up there if you have 10 tasks and all of a sudden all the non-complete are.
Well, I know they have guilt for it. I don't know if Sean has
Yeah.
guilt.
Yeah, I do have a little bit of guilt.
We've run into sometimes situations what vPlanner has is if you do not complete the task, it becomes part of the next week's plan. You gotta commit to it again. And you can commit to it again, and if you miss it again, it adds a star for the number of times that you have missed that commitment on that specific task.
What's the most stars you've ever seen?
You want to answer?
How many
Oh,
stars
you
is
know.
PG&E?
PG&E.
I know who it would be.
PG&E, that's the point where we're running out of stars. Yeah, we run out of stars and we stop committing them.
Okay.
We're seeing stars.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
So,
They took a while.
yeah, the city too. Oh, yeah, yes.
Yeah,
Oh my God, yes.
I felt guilty about.
I don't know if you've gotten to the difference between who did something wrong and what went wrong.
Yeah.
Because the focus on trust can bring it back to, well, Vic screwed that up. What was the system that was in place that broke down? You know, and Deming always said nobody can outperform the limits of the system in which you work. So we should always be asking, like if it's the communication, how do we fix the communication system? If it's materials delivery, how come we're getting materials that we didn't need or not getting materials that we did need? The materials delivery system is contributing to our not being able to keep the reliable promises. And it's not an issue of trust in the person, it's an issue of trust in the functionality of the system. Does the system function properly? And we all share that. So that's a nice common area to focus rather than looking at, which one of us is going to be blamed for this one, right?
All right. So I don't see any other hands. Oh, Daniel. Daniel did not disappoint. I was going to right
I knew you were gonna ask it later on,
So, last planner and vPlanner is planning out, I would say, 3 to 6 weeks. Strategic implementation from that data. How do you plan something in different scenarios that are going to happen a year from now? Using the information, saying you already have all the milestones and everything's already laid out, you already have the deadlines. How do you make sure that strategically you're making the right moves?
So we use both vPlanners and we do use the production strategy wall for that. This, before we made any changes in B Planner for the resequencing of the foundation and the lower walls and the linnet walls, we were trying to recover some time. So, and that wall is so visual that you see, okay, what if we shift this way, clear the handoffs, and that's kind of the first step. Then we go into B Planner and you can run scenarios. You don't need to sync it. You can just run scenarios, recalculate and see if it's on track, late, whatever that result is. If the team likes that replanning effort, then you sync after you, of course, get the buy-in from everybody, and you sync. So you are able to build different scenarios without syncing back on the plan. Yes.
And I think, to your question, the best scenario is really contingent on what is valued by our client. So if it was just cost over everything, that's a different conversation than Sutter really cared. You guys can speak to this a little bit more, but about reliability and having transparency and reliability. So if we're looking at our options and we're looking at the wonderful Excel and how we have a continuous flow, we want to have it visually show us continuous flow and handoffs where people don't have to start and stop, and there are opportunities for breakdown that create opportunities for a lack of reliability. So in creating our plans, that's our objective. If we're looking at our alternatives and we're looking at them visually, when we're doing those pool plans and we're adjusting them, that's what we want to visualize, and then vPlanner allows us to do those different options. But I think vPlanner gives you the freedom to play with it and use those milestones to see which one works, and then it's really up to what the client cares about to drive which solution is best.
Well, awesome. So I want to double down on my gratitude to this team for letting us come into their house and share their knowledge and expert wisdom. They're going to be available until they vanish like ghosts. Some of them have got some commitments even tonight. You've got some athletes maybe missed some commitments. Maybe your PRCO just went down. Maybe your PVC went down, but that's okay. So definitely connect with them if you've got further questions. Our community is always open for us to continue to learn and grow together. So big round for all of them. Thank you so much.